Hello friends, welcome to episode 104 of the Shauna Stitches Podcast. I'm Shauna and this is my crafty channel where I talk about all the things that I've been working on lately. Today is January 26th, 2025. It is Sunday and it is 10:44 a.m. It is very sunny but cold here on the Oregon coast, and I think that's a good intro. You can find links to everywhere you can find me down below. That includes Ravelry, Instagram, my actual project pages on Ravelry, my email address, and also a link to a Google form where you can ask me anything. I am wearing my only finished object today. This is the Souffle. It's just called the Souffle. I don't know. I always want to call it Souffle sweater, Souffle top. I don't know. But it's the Souffle by Laura Penrose. And this was one of my old whips. I believe it was the last episode where I showed my Wheel of Fortune, spinning wheel, Wheel of Whips, whatever you want to call it. And it picked this project as my old whip to focus on. I tried it on and only needed about 4 or 5 inches of body plus sleeves. So I was able to knit that all up and now I have a finished object. I started this January of 2023 and I finished it January of 2025. There's absolutely no reason why I put it down for so long and didn't pick it up again. No clue why I did that. I do think I was worried about running out of yarn, which I did. I'd wanted long sleeves, but I was able to use nearly all of the yarn. This right here is all that I had left. So maybe I could have done a few more rows, but overall I'm quite happy. One modification, or actually 2 technically, that I made to the written pattern is that I did I-cord bind-offs for the sleeves and also for the hem. I'm going to stand up so you can hopefully get a little bit better look. This is not easy to do in this space. So there is a little bit better look of the sweater. You can see that I have the I-cord bind-off, which before I blocked it was flipping up. And now that it's blocked, it lays really nice and flat. So one of the, I guess, special things about this pattern is the back. Hopefully you can see that. I can't tell what you can see. But it has a little button closure, which I like. Okay, I'm going to move my microphone and hope I don't make a lot of noise. It doesn't want to stay. All right, hopefully you're about back in the same spot there. And I do have my laptop in front of me so I can look at show notes. I don't think I have anything else to say about this. Obviously, if I were to knit it again and I wanted longer sleeves, I'd make sure that I had more yarn. But exactly how much yarn and yardage and all the things and modifications are in my Ravelry link. So go check that out if you're interested. I do highly recommend this. I think last time, did I tell you guys that I knit the ruffle upside down? And like I said, now that it's blocked, you can't even tell. No one would know except for me and anyone that I tell. So I'm very happy that that didn't negatively impact that because I did not want to redo it. All right, let's talk about works in progress. I have been managing to continue to do 1 square a day on my Cozy Memories blanket. And this is the square I just finished this morning, and tomorrow's square is already cast on. I'm using my little hack so that the yarn doesn't run away from me, and that is to use a little hair clip on it. So it's really nice because now it's just dangling from my project and I don't have to worry about losing it or it completely untangling or what have you. So let's see here. That's the side. This is the top of the blanket. I believe that's what I showed you last time that I had started it because I have done 14 squares since we last talked. It's been exactly 2 weeks. It's not quite yet my wingspan. Let's see. If I do my wingspan all the way over there, it's about 3/4 of a wingspan, if you will, because it goes about to where my arm is there. So it is currently 16 by 16 or 256 squares. The one this morning was 257 and tomorrow's is 258. I'm so happy that I have been able to maintain 1 square a day every day since December 1st. So I did take a picture of that when it was squared off yesterday, which I like doing that, just seeing how it looks when it's all, you know, I'll call it a square because it's not quite square, but you get the idea. So somebody asked me how big it is. Let's see, if I'm 6 foot 3/4, maybe it's like 4 feet wide now. It's a guess. Of course, it's unblocked and what have you, but my goal is to keep doing 1 square a day on that every day. And I hope, I don't know how big I'm making it yet. In my head, as I do with everything, I would like for it to fit my king size bed. And I say that because if I leave it on the couch, the dogs will destroy it. But I could always use it here in my craft room. So whatever size it ends up, it'll be fine. But yeah, that's kind of in my head, is I would like it to fit my bed. And so yes, I'm doing a square day. I'm hoping to finish it sometime in 2026 because I cast it on April of 2016. And so it'd be really nice. I mean, even if I finish at the end of 2026, you know, technically it's over 10 years, but it'll be like 10 years-ish. And that feels like more than enough time to have something on the needles. It is by far my oldest whip. The next project that I have to show you, I actually have a half object. This is my January Desert Vista Dyeworks sock. This is the When I'm 64 color. And the pattern is Woolly Waffles by Stephen West. And I really like the pattern. I really like the yarn, and I think together they make just a fantastic combination. Someone told me that this yarn color reminds them of a tulip field, and I have to say that is spot on. Obviously, it's not what the designer had in mind, but I think a tulip field is absolutely beautiful, and it looks like this to me. I'm knitting these on a 2.25 millimeter needle, 64 stitches, my normal, and I will say the pattern has a 60 or 68 cast on, I believe, and it was super simple to modify to my normal 64. I've tried this sock on, it fits great. Probably at 60 though would have been a little tight. 68 would be too big, so I like to modify to 64 if I'm able to. And since it's a 4-stitch repeat, that was easy. It is also a 4-row repeat, so it's very similar to Blueberry Waffles, but it is not the same, but very easy to knit. That being said, as you know, if you've watched before, if you've watched my Instagram, I've been having some problems knitting lately. So probably from about here on to the toe, I was trying all different kinds of ways to knit. In fact, some of my squares that I did, I was knitting continental for some, basically anything I could do not to use my left pointer finger, which I will talk about more later, but I was really struggling to put it nicely. So I have done continental, which I found I could not purl with my finger hurting or without using that finger. Then I tried Portuguese knitting, which, if you can see, there's quite a few purls in here. And I'd always heard that Portuguese knitting was great for purling, and they were not wrong. It's absolutely wonderful. But I was using still the 9-inch circular, which has always been my preferred method of sock knitting. That being said, I've had to make some adjustments. My current sock is right here, and you'll notice it's on magic loop. I do not prefer magic loop. Although I have found a hack for it, it just doesn't work on socks. So I'll talk about that on my next whip, but let's talk about this still for now. I'm still doing 64 stitches. I had started the cuff on the 9-inch circular, but I was just finding that my hands were cramping so bad. I don't have a 9-inch circular in here with me, but essentially how I've had to modify my knitting, trying to get this to where it needs to be. This is why I don't like magic loop. It just takes so long to get the cords where you need them to be. So, you know, my normal way of knitting would be, you know, something like this, where obviously working needles in my right hand and I'm holding onto it with all 4 fingers. Well, since this joint and this finger have been hurting, I just really keep it out of the equation. So my finger's up here like this, and I'm knitting with, you know, my middle finger is taking over the place of my first finger. And as far as dexterity wise goes, it's been absolutely fine. Where I've run into issues is that it's using different muscles in my hand, and it's causing even my right hand, which I feel like isn't doing anything different, but just a lot of like fatigue in my hands, which I used to just be able to knit all day, every day, and not really feel that. Although, you know, I'm trying to remember way back when, 9 years ago, when I started knitting, I probably did experience that. But because I'm using new muscles, I just have fatigue. So I wasn't been able to knit very much at all. In fact, I think it took me 4 days just to do a 20 round cuff. And I was thinking for sure I was not going to get these finished. And then I cast on something else, which I will talk about next. And I found that working on the longer needles was causing me a lot less issues. So I decided to try this on the magic loop, and although, like I said, it's not my preferred method, the fact that I'm able to knit more than like 2 or 4 rounds at a time has been really great. It's still taking me a lot longer than usual to knit this. In fact, I just finished the gusset decreases this morning. That's what they're looking like. And yeah, the one thing I'm struggling with magic loop, I don't know how visible it is. Yeah, you can definitely see it there. And yeah, right there. I missed a row of the pearls thinking that I was back to the right side of the fabric when I was still on the back. So for me, keeping track of beginning of the round is a bit harder, but you know what? The rate of that I've been knitting and just the issues I've been having trying to knit, I'm not going back to fix that. Even though I noticed it, you know, much sooner than right now. Frogging is just not something that I want to do because I already feel super slow. Like I said at the beginning, it's the 26th of January. I've never cut it this close, and I still have something like 17 repeats and a toe to go. And I'll be focusing on this quite a bit today. I'm still not sure I can finish it by the end of the month, and that just, it's such a mind shift for me to go from like I've knit a whole sock in a day. If you guys remember that, I challenged myself, knit an entire sock, and now I'm struggling to knit a pair in a month, which just blows my mind. There have been days where all I have knit is my square in my Cozy Memories blanket, and that's crazy for me. It's definitely been a change. I've had some days where I have really struggled just thinking about, you know, my goals, and I'm not able to keep up with my goals, and I'm very type A. So when I set those for myself, it's hard to do anything but that goal. And yeah, I don't know. It's just been really, really frustrating. Anyway, let's talk about something a little more upbeat, but I do have to circle back to that a little bit at the end. If you remember, I asked you which yarn should I cast on for my Mystery Do You Yoke 2? And overwhelmingly, I got Use the Rainbow color, which I did. I cast on with the rainbow, and I was knitting along and I started to have some doubts. And the reason I was doubting it was because the colors were changing really fast. I did take a photo of what I had going so far, which I will put in here, and you'll see what I mean. Like, the colors just change really fast. And where I cast on for this was at the neckline. So you can imagine it's only going to get faster as you increase those stitches. So that was concerning, but I wasn't going to frog it. I was going to continue on until I made a mistake. And I noticed it way too far into the knit to be able to just tink back. So I knew I had to rip out completely anyway. So I ended up going with the gray and pink because it doesn't change colors as fast. So I guess I will say, spoiler, if you do not want to see what the clue 1 of Do You Yoke 2 by Zanete knits, if you don't want to see that, look away. I'm about to show it. This is clue 1. And of course it's rolling up because it's stockinette. But yeah, I really love it. And I don't think this isn't going to show up great because of what I'm wearing. It kind of is almost the same color. But it seems like size-wise, it's going okay. I have modified the size that I'm knitting for the gauge that I got in my swatch, which, oh yeah, it is right here. This was my swatch. The pattern actually calls for 2.75 millimeter needles, which is what, is that what? Yeah, this is what, that's what this is knit on. And the top is the 3.25 millimeter. And I actually still didn't get gauge with that. So I decided to, yes, I did cast on a swatch with a 3.5 and I just decided it looked too loose for me, even though it wasn't at gauge, which doesn't make any sense. But I decided I would modify my knitting to the 3.25 because I like the fabric and I did some math. So I'm casting on the third size, which should be a 44 inch. But with my math, I should end up with something around 38.5, which if I was just knitting the size 2, which would be the size I would cast on if I had gauge, it was like around 40. So I'm close. If it ends up a bit bigger, I would be happier. And honestly, if it came out 44, I'd be okay with that too. But I don't know. As you saw when I tried it on, it seems like it's going to be perfect so far, which is, that's a comfort. Hopefully it stays that way. So we cast on and we did Japanese short rows, which you probably aren't really even going to be able to see. But back here, there are some Japanese short rows, which I don't think I had ever done. Zanete or Janette, I'm not sure how you say it. It starts with a Z, but I've heard it pronounced Janette. She has some tutorials on a new to me website, which also has an app called School, SKOOL. And there she's doing all the social aspect of this knit along, the tutorial links, everything. It's been really great. But she has a tutorial where she uses bobby pins to hold that thread so that when you come back to resolve it, you just pick, kind of pull on the bobby pin and you put that stitch up and that resolves it. So that's worked really well. I think you can see maybe kind of where the Japanese short rows are on the wrong side, but obviously that doesn't matter because it's the wrong side. But anyway, I really like that. I also really like her technique. Where I've done short rows in the past, the designer usually has you continue the short rows to make that entire section and then starts working in the round again. But because so many people are using this kind of spin cycle-esque yarn, it would be very obvious where you'd have that chunk, and then when you continued in the round, it would probably be a different enough color that it would be noticeable. So she'll do a short row and then a round of knitting and then another short row and then another round of knitting. And so it really like smooths it out, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying that. What else did I want to say? These braids, I don't remember. I've done one Latvian braid before and I can't remember if this was done in the same technique or not. I do remember the Latvian braid from the very first Stephen West shawl I ever knit, which coincidentally is this one, Texture Time. These are the Latvian braids on there. And they might be a different technique, but they make your yarn really, really twisted up. And don't lose that behind the couch. This was no exception. Very, very twisted. It was kind of a pain, but I do like how it looks. I was really worried with my finger pain on how I was going to knit stranded color work without this finger. but we so far are doing mosaic, which is really nice. It's also garter. I don't know if you can tell. To me, like back here, it looks very striking. I really like how that looks. But up close, it seems harder to see the garter color work. I would say that I prefer stockinette color work, but that actually does look really good. So maybe it's just kind of it blurs up close. I don't know. I was also worried that the lighter sections of this yarn would not work, but so far it is working. It's also really interesting that prior to the braid, I had the pink marled in, and after the braid, I had no pink, and then now that the braid's done, there's pink back in my yarn. This is what my current skein looks like. So I'm not saying I won't have to cut out any of this lighter section, but so far, because my contrast is such a stark difference, it's working out, which makes me very happy. Clue 2 is supposed to come out today. I'm very excited about that. I'm also really excited that I was able to keep up on that. I did not expect that to happen at all because, as I mentioned, I have not been knitting near as much as normal for me. Editing Shauna here. I forgot to tell you 2 things. One, I got new glasses. I meant to show you. I'm not sure what I think yet, but I don't hate them. I definitely wanted a different look, so I succeeded there. The other thing I forgot to tell you about was when I was talking about this project, the Do You Yoke 2 Mystery Yoke Along. I had mentioned that I was going to talk about a different way of doing magic loop, and the way that I was doing it, I think possibly might be called traveling loop, but essentially what you do is you do not keep your needles always at the beginning of round and halfway. You alternate where that starts, and I will put a link down below to the tutorial that I watched. It is a complete game changer. I absolutely love it. And what's so great about it is that that first stitch that you're going to knit is no longer only on the cord. I guess the old stitch is no longer only on the cord, it's on the needle, so you don't end up with that really tight stitch or a couple of stitches. And so that works really good. I absolutely love it and will continue to do that. The problem is I cannot use it for socks because I think the circumference needs to be at least twice the length of the needles. So if you're using 5-inch tip needle, be a total of 10 inches, you would need a 20-inch project, I think. I think they also describe that in the tutorial, so I will link that down below. Give it a watch. If you have been on the fence or don't love magic loop, I think it makes a huge difference. So on those days where the only thing I knit in an entire day was a square on my Cozy Memories blanket, I've been working on my Fairy Tale Forest block of the month through Decadilly. It is a quilt that is made in Liberty of London fabrics. And let me see, I'm trying to grab this here. I have managed to finish 3 of the 4 blocks for the first 2 months. So I've received 2 months worth now. This is block 1. And it is just so pretty. I feel like video just isn't going to do these fabrics justice, but I absolutely love it. So that's block 1. This is block 2. So it's kind of a color wash or gradient. Each month we get different fabrics. This is the first block of the second month. So you can see we went from those purpley pinks to pink, or to red, red. And I have one more block to finish for month 2. And I'm trying to remember when they ship. I won't get month 3 for a while, so I have a little time. But I am so thankful, A, that I saw Tabitha's podcast where she showed that, B, that it just struck me so much as I needed to get it, and that I got over the cost associated to get it, because that project right there has completely saved my sanity. I truly don't know what I would have done if I couldn't have found some kind of craft that I could work on those days where I couldn't really knit. Yeah, it definitely was a very hard mental struggle for me. That is all of the knitting. So I guess let's talk a little bit, or actually crafting, I guess, because that was quilting. Let's talk a little bit more about my finger. If you watched the last episode, you would know that I have been having a lot of problems. Started on the 29th of December with some pain right in here. In a few hours' time, I was trying to do the dishes, and it was so painful that I was struggling to grasp a knife handle so I could wash the handle, or wash the knife. And by the next day, my finger had extremely swollen, very painful, had to go to urgent care. So let's see. I talked to you Sunday the 12th last. Tuesday the 14th, I had been off my antibiotics again for round 2 and woke up with pain again, and immediately went and told my boss that I needed to go to urgent care. I went, they did x-rays again, and they scheduled me for an MRI when they didn't find really much of note on the x-ray. So I was able to get the MRI that day. They did an MRI with contrast, which is where they put some kind of dye into your vein and helps them see things. The way that I had to lay for this MRI, I think they called it like the Superman or something. I was on my stomach, trying not to suffocate myself into a pillow. This arm with my bad finger was up above my head, and this arm was down below. And I had to be like that for like 20 some minutes. It was a very long time. But anyway, they did the MRI, and what the person who read that noticed, he said he thought I had something called synovitis. Not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but it's how it looks when it's spelled out. And what that is a swelling of the protective layer around the joint. And that sounds good. It could be any joint that can be affected, but it's from what I've read, it's not usually in the fingers. It's usually other joints. And the reason I don't think that's correct, or at least I don't think it's only that, is that from what I've read, that would not be improved with antibiotics. And I know for a fact, every time I took antibiotics when my finger was really bad, it almost immediately improved. So I do believe that whatever's going on is impacted by antibiotics, and that wouldn't have helped for this. So that doesn't answer all the questions. So they referred me to a hand surgeon specialist, and I go to that appointment on February 10th. So I have a lot of questions to ask them. Let's see, what day did I finish antibiotics this time? They put me on a stronger antibiotic at that urgent care appointment. It was 7 days worth. It would have ended sometime this week. Maybe Monday? No, maybe Sunday. Anyway, it's been several days now since I've been off of it. And usually I'm good for about 24 hours after being off of it. And it's after that the pain starts. So it was like Tuesday of this week, I think, this last week. And I could feel just a bit of pain. And I do have just a bit of pain. But in the past, when I've noticed that little bit of pain, it has immediately gotten worse. And so I expected the same this time. But the good news is that right now I'm able to maintain at just this low level of pain. It's not stopping me from doing anything, except for that I'm still modifying my knitting. I plan on asking my hand specialist if they think I will be able to knit, if they think knitting's impacting it. Right now, I'm just too nervous to even try knitting with this finger due to just the repetitive motion of that joint, the way I knit. So yeah, for now, I seem to at least be in a holding pattern. I have been able to adapt and overcome some of the challenges where I feel like I'm picking up knitting speed again. I'm able to knit for a little bit longer periods of time before feeling just that horrible fatigue. Because, ultimately, I don't want to do more damage to other parts of my hands and my fingers. it's just a hard balance between also wanting to knit and achieve my goals, but then also looking at, the rest of my life. When my finger was really bad, that I don't think it was actually Tuesday, it was Wednesday, the next day, I was in so much pain and frustration and just not doing good. I was trying to clasp the collar onto my dog, and it has one of those little plastic collars that's kind of pinched together. And I was literally shaking in pain, and just I could not get it to clasp. So the thought of being impacted that greatly, for the rest of my life on a daily basis, like that's completely overwhelming to me, to not be able to do simple tasks that I completely take for granted. It's a scary feeling, it's a scary thought, and I don't want that to be the case. So I'm doing everything that I can within reason to keep that from happening. I just don't know if that's going to be a forever thing, or if I just need to rest it for a while and maybe it will be fine. I don't know. I've not really heard of anyone else experiencing the same thing from knitting. So I don't know. Yes, what else? Oh, there's other life stuff. I did have my colonoscopy. So much medical stuff. I think I probably reached my deductible already. I just haven't had those bills come in yet. But yes, colonoscopy went great. My doctor told me it was boring, which I think is probably the absolute best outcome you can have. And as scared as I was for the prep, it was actually very easy. So that was good. I was worried that it was going to be like stomach cramps and just not feeling good at all, but it really was fine. I forgot to mention at the very beginning, I was going to, because I'm sure you see my hands up close, but I have dirt under my nails, and that's because I spent some time yesterday replanting some cuttings that I took from my in-laws' old property. They had property that they just sold in September, I think, and they had a bunch of fruit trees, including figs, apples, pears. I think that's everything. Although I do remember I took a cutting of maybe a dogwood tree that they had. So I took 20 cuttings in total, and I tried something that I found on a YouTube channel, which I would never be able to find again. But what they had you do was take a clear, shallow bin, mine I think is Spice Sterilite, with a lid. You put the dirt in about half of it, and then instead of laying the cuttings in vertically, you lay them in horizontally, which I do have a picture, and hopefully that will make more sense. So I did that. You just keep it moist, but not too moist, and then that lid helps keep the moisture in. Sometimes I found I overwatered and you would really see condensation on the lid, and a couple times when I opened it I could see some mold. So at that point I would just take the lid off for a day or two till the moisture level came down, and then put the lid back on, and it seems to be fine. Out of the 20 cuttings, 15 of those had roots. Only about 10 of them were showing greenery growing, but so I was really surprised when I took them all out of the dirt and saw a lot of those had roots. So if you try this, what I will say is be patient, because that's about 4 months of time. And one of those was growing really good. I wouldn't say from the start, but probably about a month in, I could see a branch starting to grow, but the rest of them took much longer. I did take those last 5 and I put them back in that Sterilite container just to see if I'll get any roots, but I'm not going to hold my breath on those because they were cut 4 months ago. So just to quickly, I guess, give an idea of what I did to the cuttings, it had you score the ends about, I'd say 1.5 inches, 2 inches with a knife. So I scored it around the bottom of the part that I cut. I dipped it in a rooting powder, and then I put it in that container. So it seemed to work much better than things I've tried in the past. I've had pretty good luck just putting a stem or something in a pot of water and watching the roots grow. That's what I always do for like my avocados that I grow. But for when I tried to do a fig like that, it just rotted and molded and was disgusting. So this worked much better. I'm trying to think. I think every single fig that I tried to root this way did root. Of the cuttings that I put back into that Sterilite thing, I don't think any of those were figs, so that worked really well. I'm not sure what some of them are at this point. I've lost track. So the ones that didn't work were either pears or apples, I believe. So let's see, what else for life stuff? I think that's about it. Work's been quite busy lately. We've had some things going on which have been unpleasant to say the least, but that's all I can say about them. Yeah, I think that's it. Let's talk about reading really fast. I finished a audiobook, which was Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. I am not normally an audiobook listener, but what I have found is that I can listen to audiobooks while I quilt, because I definitely cannot read and quilt at the same time. So that has been really wonderful. I am still reading The Bad Weather Friend by Dean Koontz. That was the book that I was reading before bed, and I'm about halfway. And I'm still reading A Court of Wings and Ruin, which is the third Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. It's in that series, so it's the third book. And I am, you know what, I don't know how far I am, but I have roughly 100 pages to go. So I would have been done with that, except, I'm sure you already know this, Onyx Storm came out, and as soon as that came out, I dropped everything else, and that's all I'm reading. So before bed and in the morning and any other time I might sneak in during the day, I'm reading Onyx Storm. I know many people have already finished that within like a day or two of it coming out, but I am at roughly 40%, and I'm on chapter 26, I think. And so far is quite good. I think of the series so far, Fourth Wing is still my favorite. Iron Flame was good, and Onyx Storm is good so far. So if you know anything, keep it to yourself. I don't want any spoilers yet. I will be listening to the Fantasy Fangirls podcast for Onyx Storm as soon as I'm ready for that. I don't even think they have an episode out on it yet, but I do know from listening to there's other ones on the Iron Flame series that it is smart to finish the book before you listen to any episode, because they will have spoilers for sure. The other book that I am now listening to is Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ning. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Literally, her last name is Ng. I don't know how to say that. But that's good so far. I think I'm about halfway done with that one as well. So that is everything, I think. I hope that you're having a wonderful day and a wonderful start to the year. Mine could be going better, but I also realize it could be going a lot worse. So I'm trying to stay positive. Some days are better than others. Thank you so much for joining me. I do appreciate you being here. And if you would remember to like and subscribe, that'd be great. Also, if you have any comments for me, please leave them down below. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.